Welcome to the Concord Podcast. I'm your host, Samuel Delgado. I'm joined today with David Rayner, and in this episode, we interview Candice Underwood.
It was a joy to hear Candice's story and to sit with her and to see how from the beginning, God made a provision for the gospel, then for discipleship and the ministry opportunities. I think everyone's going to be encouraged to see the way that the Lord has used her to serve faithfully. Yeah, it's a great testimony, and I'm glad for everyone to hear it. So let's hear some stories. Let's get into it.
Thank you so much for joining us, Candice. Glad you could come on. Let's start just by hearing a little bit how you grew up and how you came to know Christ.
Okay. Well, thank you. It's a privilege to do this. And I was born in a family that grew up attending church. And so we'd go on Sundays, but there's no good people. And I thought that if you didn't commit any big sins, that I was a Christian. I just didn't think anything about it. But I later just know that good people deserve hell. It's not being good. But one time, my sixth grade, I was at a sixth grade slumber party, I remember, and I heard my friends talking about being saved. And I even asked them, what does that mean? What are you talking about? And none of them could tell me what being saved meant. So that's been kind of a pet peeve with me, because I want kids to know what that means when they say that. But they couldn't tell me, but I think that was just a precursor to the Lord just dealing with me. And a couple of years later, when I was in junior high, my math teacher invited her whole class, to a Youth for Christ overnight camp for the weekend. And I went, and I heard the gospel. And when I don't know if I've heard it before. I grew up in a Methodist church. But when I heard it, it just went through me that I don't have to do this on my own, and that it's not about just the big sins, it's about all the sins, and that through the death of Christ and his resurrection, I just literally remembered having a burden off my back. And I remember crying on the bus and things like that. But it was dramatic for me, because I had never really heard the gospel before. But when I heard it, I thought I knew that's what I wanted. So God just opened my eyes to see him then, and I confessed my sins, and the burden was lifted off of me. And then I realized there's no conditions to fulfill, and it was just a really relief. So.
Yeah, that's great.
Did you immediately start growing at that point?
It was before I could drive, so my parents would not let me go to another church. But they had what they called the barn, which was a place where kids can meet during the week, and I was discipled, by them until I could drive. I couldn't go to that church on Sunday, but during the week we had Bible studies. Went to the Bible studies, and I remember that was upstairs. Downstairs you'd have the snack bar, and just sitting around talking with kids and the kids I went to school with, and we would have a Christian group at school. And I stayed with that the whole time. Well, we moved in my junior year to Oklahoma, and even then I thought, the Lord's in this. I wasn't like kicking and screaming. It's pretty dramatic to move in your high school years. But we got connected then with before school, there was a Christian prayer group thing that the Christians knew each other. So I stayed connected that way.
You're redefining the way I think of slumber parties and barns.
Yes, that's right. They can be very useful. The Lord uses them, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
So I have a question about, at that point, you're obviously still going to this Methodist church, and clearly there was a different message, presentation of the gospel that you heard at camp than what you're hearing at church. Was there a tension between this newfound faith that you had and your parents who brought you up in a Methodist church, or maybe their concept of being saved or something like that might have differed?
Definitely. I mean, I wanted to share the gospel with them, and throughout my whole life I've shared the gospel with them, but they were just, I remember also they wanted to do things on Sunday. I didn't want to do anything on Sunday. It was my day of rest, and so one of the things, I think they went sailing, and said, no, I don't want to go. That's not. So there was always a tension there. Yeah.
Yeah. I think I can relate to that, and probably a lot of people as well have kind of a similar experience. It's really interesting just hearing you talk about the slumber party, even really telling for a lot of people that grown up in church that they have a concept for being saved, but they, for some reason, can't articulate something which I would describe as pretty simple, but it really puts the onus on the parent to explain not only the gospel, but explain how to explain the gospel.
Well, being saved
really
is in the Bible. It's a Bible word, but as I go along and working with children, another thing that they say is, inviting Jesus into your heart. And that's what I found out with the kids at the Good News Club. That's what they did. I invited Jesus into my heart. Well, I said, what does that mean? And, they couldn't. That's another thing that they say, cliche, but they don't know. And that's not in the Bible. Don't tell your kids to invite Jesus into your heart.
Yeah, that's a good point. I think sometimes as a parent, too, it's almost like you can feel like, okay, I've said a prayer or I had a breakthrough maybe once when they're young. They're like, okay, now they're locked in and they're good. And so we don't need to go back to the gospel and explain it or something like that. But it's truly, it's one of those things as you get older, if you just have this one concept of being saved or inviting Jesus in your heart and you had this one experience, it needs to be built upon. I don't know, it's really interesting. Anyway, so here you are today attending a Baptist church. So, how did you get from Oklahoma to here, attending Concord?
Well, one thing I will say, in Kansas City, Youth for Christ was really big. It was an independent Baptist church. I moved to Oklahoma. I got involved in a Southern Baptist church, but that church split, and it was that pastor that was there was actually preaching the 5 points of Calvinism, the doctrines of grace, whatever. And I believe that. The minute when I heard it, it just made sense to me, and I believed it. And so I was involved in that. But I can see as I look back how the Lord just led me from an independent to where He wanted me to be involved in my beliefs, and how it just worked out, that move. And then we moved to Chattanooga in 1999. And that was with my work. And so we were Baptists, so we were looking for a Baptist church. And at that time, anybody that quoted Spurgeon, I thought was, okay, that's good, So we got involved. It was an independent Baptist church here, but it was, they were quoting a lot of Spurgeon, so we got involved in it. And that was kind of my guide, or our guide. But we were there for 2 years, but we were involved in the church and got acquainted with the people. But one time the pastor said, God did 99% of the work, now you can do the other 1%. And at that time I was coming here on Wednesday nights to Concord, so I was kind of ready to move on. But my husband, when you're involved with the people, it's hard to move out of a church. But when he said that, it was like we were all ready. Okay, we're going. we're moving to Concord. So we did that in 2002. And then I even told the pastor when we were leaving that I was leaving on doctrinal reasons and believed the 5 points of Calvinism, and he told me, good luck finding a Baptist church that believes that. And I said, I already have. So it was really good to be able to tell him that it wasn't on any personal thing, it was doctrinal, which you don't find that too often. I don't think that people do leave churches for that reason.
Wow. Well, that's great. So you are attending Wednesday nights at Concord,
right?
Before you were attending Sunday mornings.
Yeah.
So right. So explain that. How did you come here?
I don't remember that.
Yeah.
It's really weird. I don't remember that part.
It seems like clearly you were already kind of had one foot out the door as far as that church goes. Maybe you're looking for doctrinally something more sound, and of course teaching on Sunday night or Wednesday nights. Perhaps that was a start. Maybe interesting.
Do you remember how you knew about Concord to come here on a Wednesday?
I don't remember that either. I do remember calling up the radio station, asking him where he went to church, because it was in the morning, and he went to First Presbyterian. We visited down there one time. I don't know how I knew.
Yeah.
Concord was our first church we went to. When we came to town, because we lived in the apartments right across the street that we came here. But I remember distinctly being overwhelmed. David wasn't here then, and just overwhelmed by the large pillars, and it was just too overwhelming to me.
That's interesting. Yeah. It's good feedback.
I was intimidated. I guess I was
Uh-huh.
intimidated by it.
Because I hear a lot of people who are new now saying that they're drawn by it. They just thought it was such a picturesque building that they needed to come in and see what it was like on the inside. Even some people liking the graveyards. Everybody has different aesthetic choices.
Yeah, that's true. Now, sometimes I notice when I tell people I go to Concord, they say, "Oh, that big church over there."
Right.
I don't know. And I don't think of it as big, but I guess sure. But maybe
But
it's something about that building. Yeah, true. Okay, so talk about your time here since joining. How have you served, and how have you grown since you've joined?
Well, I go back to 2002, and at that time my outside contacts were on the radio, preachers on the radio, and learning from the radio. That there wasn't a lot back then. So when I came to Concord, I remember telling someone, I'm just soaking it up. I just feel like I'm just soaking up, because I felt like I was so in a dry spot for so long on the preaching part of it. And, it wasn't about what I was supposed to do, but it was about who is the one that I worship. So I was more in awe and wonder. I mean, David's preaching was just great, and he was fairly new at the time. At that time, the entire church was memorizing Scripture, and the Scriptures they came they were John Piper's from John Piper's church that they had organized. But I mean, I was memorizing things like Deuteronomy 7:9, I think was the first one. Know therefore that the Lord your God is God, the faithful God, who keeps covenant and steadfast love with those who love him and keep his commandments to 1,000 generations. I mean, that's a big verse. Mm-hmm. Back in Kansas City, I was memorizing Philippians 2:14 or something. I mean, just little verses in the New Testament. These were verses in the Old Testament. And then I think David also enlarged my appreciation of God's creation. He was always pointing to birds and trees and flowers and how detailed they were, and that this was what God made. That kind of impressed me, and I thought about that for a lot. And he also, I don't know if it was I think it was Thanksgiving meal or something we did. He talked about, he pointed out that the Bible doesn't say thank you, but he says, I thank God for you. And that impressed me. So I have different things that I remember of that he said that while I was being here. Another time, and this was only 2.5 years spanned, and then we left in 2005 and moved again. But David and Sally Michael came from Bethlehem Baptist Church, and they had a mini conference for the weekend, and they said they were talking about how to teach children properly. And I had taught children in the past in Sunday school, but he said it's not David who killed Goliath, it's God who helped David kill Goliath. It's God. It's focusing on God, and God is the focus of the Bible character. So that was just life-changing for me to think about that, to always be pointing to God. And through David King's connections, I heard about John Piper, that he was, well, maybe I heard before, but that he had worked under a mentorship under John Piper, and then learned about Mike Dever. Mark
Dever. Mm-hmm.
Dever. And that was kind of my start of getting to know other preachers and listening to them. And so I guess you could say I was here during Concord 1.0 and missed the 2.0 and the 3.0, but now I'm back for the 4.0. So
we may be at 6.0 by now. I don't know.
Oh, okay.
COVID's thrown us over a tailspin, yeah.
That's how David describes it.
Yeah,
I
think we're at 4.0.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like that. So that's just things that I've been involved with. Well, that's what emphasized, or I remember about every church you go to. They have a focus. It seems like Oklahoma, the focus was prophecy, which now I don't even believe any of that he was talking about. But that was his. That made me trust the Bible. What the Bible said was going to happen, happened. So I learned to trust the Bible really well in that. And then in Concord, it just branched out. It was, in fact, when we left here, my husband said, "You're not going to find another church like this." And so we did. There was some other churches that were good that we did find as we moved around, but we wanted to come back here. And that was in 2019 that we came back here. And at the time I was in Florida. I'd retired in 2011, so we were living in Florida in our retirement. We lived there before, but it's a long story. We're complicated, but I won't go into all that. But anyway, I retired, went back to Florida to the home we had there, and had read John Piper's book, Don't Waste Your Life, which I knew I wasn't going to spend my retirement picking up seashells on the seashore. So looking for something that the Lord wanted me to do. I went through a couple of different things, but landed on Bible Good News Club in the schools. And there wasn't one, so I actually was volunteering in the school to build that relationship first, and then got in to start the Good News Club. So I started it from scratch. So when I moved here, when we moved here after a couple years 3 years with the Good News Club, I just said, Lord, I just remember thinking, I don't mind doing a Good News Club again, but I'd really like something that I don't have to start from scratch. That would be my preference, something that's already started. Well, then we're in church, and they asked for the ESL director. I went through the training for the teacher, and then the director came open, and thought that sounds like the perfect thing. So.
Wow.
I have an administrative background, so I just worked out. That's what I wanted to do.
So it sounds like you were being used in that way, and then, of course, here you are serving our ESL program, starting as a teacher. How was the work you did with the Good News Club, how did that translate over to ESL? Maybe just start to explain like what it is, and then talk about how that translated over.
Explain what ESL is, English as a second language?
Yeah, just what the program is for people that aren't familiar who attend Concord.
You have to have your teachers. Now, these are people that actually teach their group, and so they have to prepare. Where in the Good News Club, those weren't really teachers. They didn't really have to prepare as much. But a lot of it is... the teachers come up with ideas, ask me questions. What can we do, this or that? Or when they're asking questions, I use it as a springboard. None of it's my ideas. I just use their ideas and come up with more ideas or things to do. But keep everybody involved, keep everybody in the know. Send out emails to let people know, what we're doing. But they've all been trained. The teachers of the ESL have been trained on how to teach. So we teach for 45 minutes. Then we break for a devotional that I have somebody that gets the devotionals and has people come in. Then they go back to their class and have 45 minutes of teaching again. But after course, we had Zoom calls because of the COVID. So we realized we've made some changes since then. It was a good time to make changes because instead of having devotionals every week, the teachers do a devotional in their class because then they're talking to the students that are on their level. They know what level. When we had devotionals as a group, I think it was kind of over a lot of their heads. And it was very hard to get speakers to understand these people are like basic kindergartners, they can't understand a whole lot of English. So that has worked out really well. And I've left it to the teachers to decide what level they're going to teach and how they're going to share. It's 20 minutes of Bible or some kind of topic or whatever. And it's really, I get our teachers together, and it's usually some teacher will say, are we going to get together? And then I'll plan a get together of the teachers, and we talk about what's good, what's been bad, what are you teaching in your devotional, and the things they come up with are they're very creative and very. Some of them are just the little kids' book, where they're reading the basic Bible out of a child's book, but they're all. I kind of monitor that, and they're all doing really good on doing the devotional. And then once a month, at the last Wednesday of the month, we have all get together, and then they have a devotional. When they break after 45 minutes, they come down to the kitchen, get a snack, get a bag, and that they can eat and go up to their class. But most of them just hang around. They want to see the other people in from their country that might be in a different level of class. They'll see them for that time and visit, and then go back to their class. Yeah.
Wow.
But we have, let's see, we have 27 different countries that have come this year.
Wow.
And out of the 108 that are enrolled. So percentage-wise, it's like 25%. I mean, it's a very good that we have that many countries.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
1 to 4, a different country.
So how would you encourage, this is mainly going to be Concord members who are going to hear this, how would you encourage both in the weekly Wednesday opportunity for anyone who hears about this and is interested but just hasn't known the next steps to take to get involved, and then beyond that for our members who wouldn't have the opportunity to come midweek and serve? I know you've been creative in thinking of ways and praying about ways that members can maybe connect with some of those families. Would you mind sharing some of those opportunities?
Yeah, and I won't take credit. Joe Brown has entered our area and helping push me a lot, but he has some creative ideas, and we've brainstormed and come up with a lot of. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't work. But one of the things is a partnership and getting well, first of all, I got to get the ESL students to commit. So a lot of them we've partnered, and the ESL student is hard to connect. But I think it'll catch on with the ESL students wanting to just have practice speaking English together, or being able to go to someone and help them. They have a real connection with their teacher, but I want them to go farther than that and get a connection with someone in our church. And we have those behind the scenes that are going on. But I'm looking for more people to do that. It's a real blessing to be working with a foreign student that doesn't understand, how to use money or connect with a doctor or has a problem. We've had a lady that was coming to our church that needed help with her health, and couple of people, she was Chinese, that spoke Chinese, could talk to her and get her in the right direction.
That's great.
But we also have other, Hispanic people. I know we put out a little blog with what Joy's doing with her student.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just meeting on a casual basis just to get together, have a picnic, or have be able to just talk and just share ideas and things. And we've had a couple of people that needed counselors, and we have found their counselors. So there's a need, but we try to match people if they're in your area, if they live close by you, if you have children that might be matched. When they fill out the form, they fill out their needs and how many is in their family, if they have any allergies or anything. So you can look at their application and see if, I think I'll take that person.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not like we just say here. I mean, you could pick and choose who you would like, what kind of nationality you would want, and that kind of thing. So I'm hoping that it gets more cross-cultural in our church, and they can see that they don't have to go on a mission trip that's right here. We've got them coming to our church. We just need to
do both.
Yeah,
do
right.
both
do
of them.
both.
Yes,
Right.
go on a mission trip and host and love on the nations that are here.
Yeah.
Even things like meals, right? Or things that you're encouraging folks, like have people over, explain to them what this holiday is, and
Right.
let them have a cultural experience in your home. Just dozens of ways that we can be creative and figure out ways that we can connect to and begin to hopefully jumpstart a relationship with these folks.
And they love to share their meals with you, what they cook, their
That sounds
culture.
even better, yeah.
Yeah, they love that too. And we give them a time that we do that during class to bring in their meal when we break and have our snack. We'll have a time that they can bring it in. They love to do that. So they love to share their meals with other people.
If someone hears this and was interested in maybe connecting and being available, or if you had someone fill out a form, would calling Erica or emailing Erica in the office and she could connect them with you, that'd be the best way to handle it?
That would work
Got
out
it.
fine, yeah.
Awesome. I hope people hear this and reach out. I know I read that the interview in the Chronicle with Joy. I thought that was fantastic. We're basically over time. I'm going to have to edit some of the stuff out. Just is what it is. But I do want to ask one more closing question because, like I said, we can always edit stuff out. But I'm interested to hear what you have to say on this one because you've attended so many other different Baptist churches, so I figure you might have a different perspective. But, what's your prayer for Concord?
I pray that the members of Concord would just be full of zeal to serve Christ and bear witness to Christ in our community. Colossians 1:23, we've just been, if this sounds familiar, this is what David's preaching, but one of the things is that be stable and steadfast, not shifting from the hope of the gospel. And I thought that's what all of us need to do. But we're all ordinary, unknown, average believers who can pursue the glory of Christ in our own day and in our own generation, passing that on to the next generation. So, just being involved in the church, get involved. If it's Sunday school, if it's ESL, passing on that, what we know to the next generation. Then another thing that really hit me, I've been here, I listen to a lot of podcasts, but I was talking about mission statements and that kind of thing. Well, they was talking about strategic plan. And I thought, I wonder if our church has a strategic plan. And then I thought, they need a mission statement. And I thought, you know what our mission statement is? It's the Great Commission that we read every day, every Sunday to each other. And I just think, I pray that we take that to heart. And that's our mission statement, and look at it as a mission statement. I don't know if David's preached on that. That was before I came back, but it just dawned on me. That's our mission statement. So take that to heart and share the gospel wherever we go. We'll stay solid.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Well, thanks again. I know Dave was excited to interview you because, one thing he wanted to talk about was just the way you serve with the energy that you have. You mentioned, you credited part of that. You read a John Piper book, and you knew that you didn't want to just retire and collect seashells. And so I think that's encouraging, for me to see that you're serving just, because you're burdened, to share the gospel. And I think that's Christ in your life. Thank you so much. And I'll close this out unless you have any last words.
No, I could keep talking, but that's all right.
Right on. Thank you so much for listening. I hope you were encouraged. If you were, share this with somebody you know, and make sure to share your story as well. And we'll see you on the next episode.